Welcome, all you kids and squids, to our recap of the Splatoon 2 Fresh 4 Championship 2021. My name is Ninehole Grains, I'm a Splatoon commentator and a huge fan of the game, and I cannot be more excited to bring the action to you here today.
Hi everybody, my name is Milana and I'm an enthusiastic squid kid just like you. Today we're joined by two teams, Not FT Win and Starburst, two of the best teams in North America duking it out for a trophy featuring Judd and Lil Judd. Without further ado, let's take it to game number 1.
Game 1 was a story of decisive movement and trusting your game plan, and boy did these teams get it started early.
That's right, Nine. We can see here Kyo getting an early splatted by Bran and Ice, and both members of Starburst moving to that advantageous positioning and, really just holding down that zone where they need to be.
It's not easy to take back against this team, and take a look at how Not FT Win did it. Look at all those bombs flying from left to right, booyah bombs, suction bombs, splat bombs. Woo! Had to back all the way back and give up the zone there.
Yeah, and we can catch that slow-mo replay in case you missed a little bit of that action. As we can see here, some of those suction bombs running in and trying to catch that zone from Not FT Win. And what is important here to notice is that two members of FT Win trying to combine their specials to hold that zone, and because there's power in numbers, Nine.
There absolutely is power in numbers. I see what you did there, and this is actually a strategy that they used multiple times throughout this game. We actually have it from the perspective of Bagel this time, who is lined all the way back, tossing the suction bombs from as far away as possible, understanding that they need to stay on the map if they want to take the zone. At the corner of your eye, you'll also see that Kyo had jumped down with another bomb rush as well. It was just enough to take the zone back as they were on the verge of defeat. With just over 10 seconds left, they bought themselves some more time.
And like we said, positioning. Biscuit here is taking kind of a dangerous position and unfortunately gets picked off by Ice, but Ice here using that pick to make space and take a more advantage spacing so that they can protect the zone.
The two teams traded punches back and forth through the rest of it until this final decisive hold here from FT Win. Bagel once again gets it started out with that suction bomb rush, but take a look here, holding down this area by this fan to ensure that his teammates could move up. You're gonna see here just in a moment, Kyo backs up here next to Bagel and uses another bomb rush in order to force the members of Starburst all the way back. Once they got this portion of the map, Milana, they never let it go.
That's right, Nine, and we see that timer ticking down, and this was the decisive play that gave them the victory.
A fantastic game number 1, and let me tell you, when we saw that game number 1 looked like this, we knew we're in for one heck of a set. And speaking of that set, let's go ahead and throw it right into the middle with game number 4.
As we enter Game 4 of the Fresh 4 Championship, Not FT Win only has one more game to claim the victory. Starburst is going to have to make some big changes, so they opt to change their weapon composition to something a little longer ranged.
What Starburst gained in a bit of range, they gave up in mobility. About halfway through the game, Not FT Win took advantage of a slight overextension and used that speed to swarm the members of Starburst as they went on to score big. From there, it was a hop, skip, and a jump to get a huge lead that they would hold until the game's waning seconds.
And with 30 seconds left on the clock, Starburst is going to have to make some big moves to get some points on the board. Brandroid taking that left route over there and getting a pick off of Not FT Win is going to be huge. It's going to give them a little bit of area to move forward, and it's going to make Not FT Win retreat.
They took advantage of that almost immediately. You can see Bran and Jared at the top of the screen attacking Not FT Win's flank. In the meantime, Ice and Brandroid wait patiently for that attack to land, and once Bran rotates back, Ice moves in with a huge score that starts the bonanza. The rest of the members swarm as quickly as they can, and an emphatic victory going the direction of Starburst.
And with the end of Game 4, Starburst is finally on the board, and the momentum starts to shift in their favor. That will bring us to an exciting Game 7. Let's take a look here.
We had finally arrived at Game 7, the championship point. The two rivals had treated us to another incredible set in their storied history. But it was finally time to determine a winner and for heroes to be made.
Our first big play was made by Ice. Ice from Starburst surviving an unlikely 2v1 right here, and This gives Starburst the ability to push up a little bit, and Ice, taking that aggressive positioning, is able to charge their special, the Stingray. By using the Stingray, they are able to kind of produce a little bit of covering fire and take out hopefully a member or two of Not FT Win, helping that Rainmaker make its first push.
Not to be outdone by his teammate, Bran went on an absolute tear this game, hitting an incredible double direct with this Inkjet and getting a second pick on Kyo from Not FT Win. This push looked like it might take the points the distance as the team moved closer and closer to getting that knockout.
What Starburst wasn't anticipating was Biscuit waiting for them as they were making that push. Biscuit able to hold that defensive positioning and take a couple of members of Starburst down allows for an opening for Not FT Win to make a push.
In their final desperate push, FT Win placed all their cards in the correct position. Kyo and Bagel moved up, taking out 3 members, with the last one being Brandroid. In an incredible, unlikely fight, Brandroid was able to take out all 3 members of Not FT Win, securing the victory for his team.
But that was a lot of action in one go, so let's take another look at the action in slow-mo. As we can see here, 2D is holding a defensive positioning, trying to defend against Bran, getting a lot of support from their teammates, and in this one last final opportunity to make the push, unfortunately Brandroid is able to stop all 3 members of Not FT Win in one go, giving the victory to Starburst.
At the end of this historic set, Starburst completed an incredible reverse sweep to earn their very first North American Championship.
And 9, I for one cannot wait to see Not FT Win and Starburst duke it out on the battlefield once again.
We've hoped you'd enjoyed this recap of the Splatoon 2 Fresh 4 Championship 2021. Until next time, stay fresh!
Whether it's to play your favorite game, to play for school pride, or for the thrill of competition. Play competitively with Play Versus. Visit playvs.com today for more information.
In this house, we bool.
Nice try.
Here we go.
In their house, we duel.
KO. Yes!
In our house, we score.
That was awesome!
We love teaming up.
Play.
And we love a little competition.
Oh, it's okay. You got it next time. You got it next time.
Ready? Whether it's with family, friends, or rivals near and far.
This is the end.
Block, block, block.
Yes!
So whichever sport you choose, victory could be just within reach. You ready to play? Nintendo Switch Sports. Available now only on Nintendo Switch.
Well, happy Saturday, and here we are. It is time now for Event 4 of the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022. I'm your spray-by-spray host, Jordan Kent, and joining me, you know him, you love him, even though he's 1 short of 10. We have 9, and for the first time ever with the crew, and by far the far superior player out of all of us here, we have Rissa jumping in for the first time. And Rissa, you are a huge student of the game. You've had a chance to check out the last 3 events. What do you make of all the action we've seen so far?
Oh my gosh, all of the action so far has been so interesting to watch and be a spectator of. And today I'm really excited to be a part of watching it because we not only have some familiar teams that we've seen in previous weeks, but we do have some new teams that have made it to the top 4 today.
Perfect segue to go ahead and check out the bracket as we get set to crown yet another champion here during this event 4 of the Inkopolis Showdown 2022. And 9, let's go ahead and get started with you. The matchup of DNA and Good Morning. A couple of interesting notes on these teams.
Yeah, Jordan, this was kind of the hero of last week's event. DNA scoring an emphatic 3-0 victory over Not FT Win, getting second place in the tournament. They'll be matched up against Good Morning, a team that has competed in all 4 of the ladder events so far, gone from top 16 to top 8, and now finally a chance at the top 4.
And Rissa, as we check out the Mad Titans versus Triggerfish Zone Supremacy. We're going to call them T-Zones just to save ourselves a few breaths here today. But the Mad Titans, some familiar powerhouse names on that team.
Yeah, like 9 highlighted for DNA, Mad Titans is actually a familiar team to the stream, previously entering the tournament as Not FT Win with 1 different member. So they have 1 member that's a little bit different that we'll get to see once we start going into these matches. And then they are going to be up against TZS, which is a team that has made it so far in the bracket. They've done such a good job getting up to this point.
Let's go ahead and check out the rules as these 4 squid squads will try and duke it out for our grand prize. That'll include a gaming chair, Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022 trophy, 10,000 My Nintendo Gold points, a gaming headset, a Splatoon 2 jacket, a backpack, and then a Nintendo Switch carrying case that can go in that backpack. But here are the rules for the semifinal round. The team with the lower seed will choose the mode for the first game, and then the other team will choose the stage. After that, the losing team will choose the mode for the next game, and the winner will choose the stage. A reminder, you have to go through all 4 game modes before you can repeat them. Stages, well, as we've seen before in previous weeks, you can certainly repeat those as often as you would like to. So now we've checked out the rules here, and Rissa, you played a very elite level, and one thing that's really stood out as we've watched these teams week after week is the coordination that we're seeing amongst these elite squads. Why is coordination so important if you want to find yourself in these type of championship brackets?
Coordination is so important because it really comes down to your team synergy and game sense. So in order to have that game sense and awareness to play with your team and be coordinated, you really have to make sure you're knowing what your team is going to do next, what your team needs to do in order to win the game. And then you also have to be aware and coordinate around what the other team wants to do and what they need to do to get the lead on their side. So being able to coordinate and balance what your team and the other team are doing and coordinate specials paired with that to get things done for your team is so important at this high of a level.
And 9, we saw last week with DNA, we mentioned the 3-0 sweep over Not FT Win. A big reason for that, momentum. There's always that, well, moment in a single game that we see. Why is momentum so important? How can you use that to your advantage?
Yeah, well, it's both a set thing and in one game. Of course, in a game, if you manage to take out all 4 members of the opposition, they're not going to have their specials for a while. Meanwhile, you'll get to paint and bring up your specials as that's going on. So you get some picks, you move up a little bit, you build your specials, and all the while the opponent just has to work hard to get back to the middle. But because you get to pick the stage after you've won and the opponent picks the mode, it gives you a great opportunity to stick with what stages work well for you and keep that momentum going throughout all of the games.
Also a great opportunity to go to Sturgeon Shipyard yet again if you've watched this over the last 3 weeks. Now, Rissa, we're going to get set for Splat Zones here in just a moment. And when you talk strategy for Splat Zones, what are these top-level teams trying to do in order to secure the victory here?
In order to secure the victory here, these teams are really going to be focusing on capping the zone for themselves, but along with that, making sure that they're defending the zone. They have to make sure they're on top of noticing what the other team is doing, when they're going to have their specials ready to have their counter push. So it really comes down to defense for Splat Zones.
Well, here we go. Let's get set for Event 4, the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022. Let's hop in the Ink Pool. DNA taking on Good Morning, and 9. Why don't you take us through the loadouts for both these squads?
Yeah, well, you don't have to look any further than Helix from DNA here. This was a player that between the 2 sets last week, I thought had 2 completely different game plans, really. We saw in the earlier sets piloting this E-leader that they're currently using now could seemingly take over games on a whim.
Live look at Landon, 4-3 advantage on the map, 3-2 now for DNA, and this is an opportunity where you said lock down the zone here, Rissa. They've got the zone. What are they looking to try and do here next?
Next up, DNA is going to want to make sure that they have their specials ready, which we do see they have 2 specials ready, and they need to make sure they have those ready for defense when Good Morning is going to have their specials ready to come into the zone.
So far, DNA in full control of the zone. Soldier trying to help their team get back. Special ready to go with the bubbles to see the Ink Armor coming up. And here is that push to try and take the momentum. But 9, how about DNA able to withstand all of those specials?
Yeah, unbelievable. Great job. They separated so far apart as we get a delayed full wipe here that those bubbles weren't able to hit anything. They waited so long to try to bring in the armor to work with that, but just wasn't enough. And Helix hitting another incredible shot here as we tick down. Jordan, I'm not sure they're going to get anyone near the zone.
This might be a clean sweep here. 7 seconds left. DNA, a textbook example of dominance, and that will do it. DNA saying good night to good morning in that very first game. Rissa, just utter dominance start to finish. If you look back at what we saw that just went by very quickly, what stood out to you the most about what DNA did in that game?
Something that really stood out to me with the way DNA was able to position Helix. They also, along with positioning Helix on the E-leader, their anchor backliner, they were able to get specials ready, set up, and not push up too far. So not pushing up too far, making sure that you're defending that E-leader really played out well for them.
And 9, what really seemed to stand out is we saw Good Morning at one point do what you're supposed to do on defense, right? Everybody coming together, stack those specials like a sandwich, and then get ready to deploy them. But DNA did a masterful job of thwarting that effort.
They did, and because they got the clean wipe without losing too many people in the process, they were able to have their specials in retaliation. You saw that when those bubbles came out from Soldier, the Booyah Bomb came out of DNA's K52 player as well. So whenever you're able to get that full wipe, the momentum we talked about at the start, it means you already have the tools necessary to beat whatever your opponent's coming back in with.
And Rissa, I'm sure you've maybe been in this situation before. Let's say you go into a game, you have a lot of confidence, and then that happens to you if you're Good Morning, where you really didn't have any momentum that entire game. What's the thought process with this team right now as you get set to rack it up for a second game?
You know, thinking about what Good Morning's thought process might be, it really comes down to me thinking about, you know, what was the main thing that seemed like we couldn't get past as a team? What's that thing that really stood out to us? Whether it be a specific player, a specific special that was really deterring them, you know, what's something that they might want to think about being able to defend and go into playing differently in the next game?
And 9, when you look at taking down that E-leader, that really seems to be like priority number 1 if you are Good Morning. But now we switch it up. We get ready for some Clam Blitz and Muscle Forge Fitness. And hey, listen, Clam Blitz, a lot of different strategies you can go with. But as we know, it's all about trying to get that big initial push.
Yeah, the big initial push, it's so easy to gather a big number of clams as you're working around the map and inking up turf as you go along. And I do think that this is a really smart pick because it'll limit at least some capacity the effect that Helix can have on the map. I wouldn't be surprised to see Helix be forced to switch off that E-leader into something a little faster pace, and that's going to play much more into what Good Morning is playing with.
And Rissa, let's talk the mid-game in Clam Blitz. Each team has maybe made that initial push, but now you've got a penalty stacked on everybody. Clams are all over the place. What's the general strategy when you get into the meat and potatoes of a Clam Blitz match as far as trying to take control of the game at that point?
That's a really good question. Sometimes it really comes down to, you know, both teams have points on the board, both teams have clams on the board, but they just can't quite get to that point where they can start pushing the other team's basket. So sometimes it really comes down to just kind of both teams sitting in mid, you know, pointing fingers at each other and just stalling out, seeing who can get a pick first. And it really can come down to that, especially at this high of a level.
Yeah, and really controlling mid seems to be huge, especially on this map here, 9. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach it, but you get the sense that you have to make that push towards the basket when you have the numbers advantage. And as we were talking about coordination at the top, even more important in Clam Blitz because you can't really just go in there solo and try and have that completion. You need some help there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one player to really watch this game is going to be Soldier from Good Morning. Has been piloting that foil squeezer for a long time, and it does have the bubble blower as its special. So should be an opportunity for them to file in behind those bubbles, pop those, get a big score, and really it's going to be about the staying power after that's been done.
And it's interesting because, Rissa, when you look at frontliners, it's this song and dance about you've got to play aggressive, but you can't be too aggressive where you're always going down and leaving your team at a disadvantage. How do frontliners balance that aggression, especially when they're trying to make sure they can plow some ink ahead for their team?
Sometimes frontliners really have to, it really comes down to not only having that game awareness to be able to do that, but also sometimes it can come down to just having QR, quick respawn, and being able to play off of that really well.
Well, let's see if Good Morning can bounce back after DNA swiftly took game number 1. It is Clam Blitz, Muscle Forge Fitness, both teams making their way to the middle, and already an ink armor coming out from Landon, and that might help with that initial push here, Nine.
Yep, you can see that they used it very quickly, understanding that the opponent was going to have a slightly slower ink armor, but one member does go down to, I believe, a wayward Tentamissile, and that's 2 down now, so it does look like Good Morning is going to have the opportunity to set themselves up for an early push here if they so choose.
Good Morning with that minor numbers advantage. You see 14-7 with the Clam currency on the map at this moment, and right now a bit of a delay here, Rissa, because neither team has gotten that power clam at the moment. It really feels like DNA has bounced back well. Now 4-2 on the map here, Rissa. Seems like a huge opportunity for them.
Yeah, with DNA, it was Landon and Luke still up, and they were able to both back up, wait for their teammates to come back, and now, in doing so, they essentially have 3 members down from Good Morning. Landon here with this power clam actually able to start getting in a position to try and push up to score this power clam.
Landon trying to matriculate the power clam up the field, getting a little bit of help, but facing at the top of that ramp a flurry of members from Good Morning. Tentamissiles coming out. Landon trying to sneak by, able to break the barrier, and how about that, Nine, bobbing and weaving through all the chaos there.
Yeah, and I think that some of the other members maybe jumped down a little bit too quick, weren't quite aware of the gravity of this push. You saw that Zeke and Helix were over there as well and got very, very lucky. I will say that nobody had the presence to throw into their claim and to keep that open. There are a lot of points left on the board from DNA there.
Yeah, you saw it at the end. One toss that looked like a Shaq free throw. Didn't hit anything at all as that basket popped back up, so that'll only make it a 20-point lead for DNA. Good Morning really surviving, but once again, Rissa, it's Landon with the power clam in full control. You feel like DNA here, Rissa, is really starting to take the momentum.
Yeah, it looks like this is almost a deja vu moment. Landon here once again with this power clam. There are now 2 members down, though, of DNA. This might be the moment for Good Morning to start getting a push in with 16 clams at the ready, and finally mid-control. Keen here is going to missile and maybe start to try and score this power clam.
Keen able to avoid a little bit of pressure. Keen still staying alive. 4-3 advantage for DNA. Drops the power clam, picks it back up, tosses it down again, getting into a defensive position because Nine, you've got to quickly help out your team. You're now down 2 members and DNA trying to push.
Yeah, that was a really awkward scenario there. You saw that when they had tried to make their push, there was a member of DNA who was just pestering them, firing some shots off, and they were never able to really take care of that player. So that entire push really wasn't able to get going here. So important that when you take an engagement, you're able to end it very quickly.
2 power clams have only resulted in 30 points for DNA, so Good Morning doing a fine job of making sure DNA doesn't pour it on. Keen once again playing quarterback for Good Morning, hanging out back, has got those Tentamissiles ready to go. 3-3 on the map, now 4-4, and if you're Good Morning here, Rissa, how do you try to finally get yourself in position to try and get some points?
Good Morning here really has to think about, how do they want to coordinate their specials to get a push going here. You can see they have 4 specials at the ready, and they were waiting for this to get a push going, but they do have to be careful because, on the contrary, that gave DNA time to also build up specials for their defense.
A couple of specials coming out. You see the Booyah Bomb for DNA, really keeping Good Morning at bay. And Nine, that's what's standing out right now. Good Morning, they've got the power clam. They really haven't been able to get onto DNA's side of the map, and just like that, Keen goes down.
Yeah, with this kind of passive play that Good Morning's been doing here without really pushing through, you've seen that, kind of like Rissa said there, all the time they've taken to get the perfect push has given DNA enough time to reposition to build their own specials, and it seems like one member is always attacking Keen as they're carrying that clam.
Less than 1 minute left to go. Good Morning really just one solid push away from tying or taking the lead here, but it's been DNA with that solid defense. You see the splat bomb coming down. Keen says once again, moving their way up on top of the ramp. Booyah Bomb ready to come out. Keen says dodging. Got 8 clams at the moment. Just over 30 seconds left. But Rissa, I keep going back to this. How about the territory and turf control of DNA? They can't let Good Morning go anywhere at the moment.
Yeah, DNA is doing such a good job at keeping consistent map control in mid and also presence with that map control. Finally, though, with 2 members down of DNA in the last 20 seconds of this might be the chance for Good Morning to start getting a push in. Members of both teams are just going down left and right.
Oh, but Zeke sacks the quarterback. A huge stop there, under 10 seconds left. And at this point, Good Morning is left scrambling. They are just a power clam and a couple of clams away. We might be headed to overtime. We'll see if Keen has one last Hail Mary available. Keen trying to back up into a corner, looking for some support. Deploys those Tenta missiles, and 9, an opportunity for Keen, but might get stopped right here. Still staying alive, but down goes Keen. 9.
Yep, not enough resources there. They're going to just try to keep this alive as much as they can, but not difficult to throw a Booyah bomb there. And I mean, just impeccable control of the flow of the match there from DNA. Start to finish, you got the sense they were never really out of control.
And I think that's really the story of this game here, Rissa, was DNA's ability to really just dominate the map. There was not a single time that Good Morning really felt comfortable on the other side of the map. They could never really get past that imaginary half-court line. And you have to credit a team like DNA for really doing a fine job of just making sure they played solid defense that entire game.
Yeah, they were constantly on top of making sure that they had map control, and it made it really difficult for Good Morning to even get into mid. I mean, DNA had control of the left side of the map, the right side of the map, and the middle of the map. So Good Morning just couldn't ever get in a position to really set up and paint the map for themselves.
And 9, this is what I love. You can look at the objective of Clan Blitz, but it still boils down to the fundamentals of Splatoon. Ink on ground. If my team has more ink than your team, we're going to most likely win, and that's what this came down to.
Yeah, a lot of people would say that this is the most similar mode of the ranked modes to Turf War, because exactly that, the objective is everywhere, all around you. The pods that the clams spawn in aren't always in relevant parts of the map, so when you see a team that's able to control the pace of a match like DNA was able to that time, it really does speak to not only their coordination, but also the presence of mind to understand where the push is going to come from before it even starts.
Well, that puts DNA up 2-0 over Good Morning. One more win, and they will make their way onto Grand Finals. And Rissa, we saw a little bit more balance there from Good Morning, but they still couldn't quite get the victory. And now this is the second straight game. They have yet to score a point. And so when you look at this, if you're Good Morning, what's the conversation like to try and get a little bit more offense going, regardless of the game mode coming up next year?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, their counter pick there for the second game was really good. It did force Helix to go off of, one of those Charger E-liter type weapons. But with Helix having, they had mini Splatling ready as their weapon to counter that counter pick. So, I don't really know what Good Morning might want to be thinking here. They might want to think about, is there any map where we can really actually play in our more controlled play style that might work best for us that way?
Yeah, it will be either Rainmaker or Tower Control, so a really central focal point that both teams will be focused on here, 9. And if you're DNA, you've got to be feeling great because you're continuing a lot of what you did last week as far as just a dominant performance in semifinals, and you've got some excellent offense paired with, once again, just a defense that really doesn't seem to break at all. You really aren't giving your opponent that many opportunities.
Yeah, it speaks to the versatility that this team has because they do have the backliner in the room here with Helix, the only member of either team that really feels comfortable on those backline weapons. So on longer range maps, you've got that pick, but as Rissa pointed out there, when you can flex over to a very mobile mini Splatling and assist with control, it means even the short range maps aren't too bad either.
All right, we're getting set for Rainmaker on Port Mackerel. So Rissa, you look at this combination of game mode and stage, and what stands out to you about what both these teams are going to face here with Rainmaker and Port Mackerel?
Well, this map and mode in particular, of course it's Rainmaker, so I'm sure it'll play, have its moments where it's going to play really fast, but it is a really long map for Rainmaker. So there's a lot of points in the map where you kind of have to figure out if you want to rush the Rainmaker, if you're going to have specials ready. It's a really tight and long map, so you have to figure out how you want to play your team around that with the specials.
There's really 3 avenues to go here, right, 9? And as far as what these teams are going to look to try and do, it is going to be close quarters once again, and that means you're going to have a lot of 1v1s, 2v1s, and whoever wins is going to really have to be dominant in those situations.
Yeah, and there were definitely some moments in that last game where you got the sense that just maybe Good Morning was about to turn things around, and what really changed it was a lot of those 2v1 scenarios, the members of DNA were able to stay up and active just long enough for a teammate to come over and assist, and that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but it is incredible how just one of those scenarios can completely turn a game on its head.
And Rissa, oftentimes in Rainmaker, we see that the great teams are able to turn their Rainmaker carrier into a weapon, not just a sitting duck and not just somebody that needs to be escorted. And so it will be interesting as we get set for Rainmaker. Port Mackerel, can DNA make it 3 in a row, a clean sweep to get to grand finals, or will Good Morning rise to the occasion and extend to semifinals? Both teams scurrying to the middle of the map. And how important is it, Rissa, do you feel in Rainmaker to be the first team to snag it?
Sometimes it's really not that important. Even though popping the Rainmaker can get you map control, it actually really comes down to who can get specials off first and potentially get that map control with their specials, get some splats while they're at it, and see who can get a disadvantage that way.
Good Morning, the first team to snag the Rainmaker, trying to make their way forward. You see the Tenta missiles coming down. Zeke having to back up into a corner, retreat just a little bit, and this is the offense Good Morning was looking for here, Nine.
It was indeed, and look at the specials that they've opted to bring here. They've got 2 sets of Tenta missiles and 1 Stingray here, so you talk about playing the map here. They knew immediately what the game plan was going to be. If they're going to retreat backwards, we have the specials with global range to deal with it here. So the fact that they've only given up 20 points and just the Rainmaker carrier up here, I think, is A-okay from a defensive side.
Huge pick by Helix, but they leave an opening as Good Morning is able to sneak it all the way to get to 36. And sometimes, Rissa, if you've got that seam, you have to take it in an early lead for Good Morning. This is a lot different than what we've seen. A lot of offensive sparks coming from Good Morning here, Rissa.
Yeah, I love the way that Wind just saw that opportunity. There was some blue paint on the ground, and they just rushed to get their points all the way down to 36. And sometimes it really does come down to that for Rainmaker in particular. Now, though, with 3 members down of Good Morning, DNA here is in a position to actually potentially get the lead here with Landon grabbing the Rainmaker and getting the lead by 3 points.
And DNA steals the lead back from Good Morning. A lot of splats left and right. How about the mayhem that we have here, Nine? Nobody really able to be on the map for that long because the shooters and just the aggression that we're seeing here, it is making for a very fast and furious game.
Yeah, you said close quarters at the start of this, and every time you play Rainmaker on a narrow map like this, eventually that is going to happen, and so difficult to keep track of the scramble there. And at the end of that, actually, I believe it was Helix was able to sneak in with a curling bomb and add just a few more points, and we've seen plenty of games be decided by plays like that.
Yeah, Port Mackerel makes an airplane cabin seem spacious at this point as both these teams finally have their full squads back on the map, but it is a 7-point lead for DNA, and now Good Morning will have to have another push as you see the Stingray putting in work. 2-1, Rissa. Here's another opportunity for Good Morning.
Yeah, there is only 1 member up of DNA right now. It is Luke on this 52. Gonna use this Booyah Bomb to try and stop the Rainmaker. But you can see that Wind there holding the Rainmaker is just trying to stall it out and wait for their teammates as they get collapsed on by DNA here.
Yeah, 4-on-1 convergence right there as DNA is able to get the splat and stop Good Morning. And you take a look at Luke for DNA trying to push forward and trying to apply a little bit of pressure on Soldier for Good Morning. And once again, Nine, it just feels like DNA, they're able to make their pushes so much quicker than Good Morning.
Yeah, and even right there in that last thing when it was 3 against 1, Luke, the last member up, threw the splash wall down and then used Booyah Bomb to stop 3 members from really encroaching and getting any more points here. And honestly, right now, Jordan, it just kind of looks like they're content to melt the clock a little bit with just under 2 minutes remaining.
Yeah, as you mentioned, just under 100 seconds left here, and it is still DNA with the lead and the Rainmaker going to try and stall this thing out, and that's going to really force Good Morning here, Rissa, to play much more aggressive, which isn't really their MO, and that is one thing that you can do if you're an elite team, Rissa. You take the other team out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, that's exactly what DNA is doing right now. I mean, we're getting to see this from Caden's point of view. Caden making sure they're backing up and really getting stalled out by the Rainmaker carrier of DNA. Finally, DNA was able to slowly push up the Rainmaker and get it onto Good Morning's side, but that was so much stalling, and now there's only 1 minute left of this match for Good Morning to be able to get the lead.
Oh, but don't blink now. 4-2 advantage for Good Morning. Under a minute left, a chance to push the Rainmaker and try and take a game from DNA, but just like that, Nine, the yellow wall of ink of DNA, stopping any potential push for Good Morning.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating. They had one member who had actually stayed around in the middle and snuck behind, so Keen had pushed forward there to try to advance the Rainmaker, but all that time they had to then rotate back. There weren't enough people to assist with Keen, so that slight momentum they had to give up, and now just a couple of specials will be all it takes to close this one down.
Yeah, you saw Keen get squeezed right there. It's still 2-2 on the map, but with just 20 seconds left, Good Morning is going to need a lot of help here if they want to try and keep their tournament hopes alive. DNA, they're just going to keep an eye on the Rainmaker, so this is going to be tough sledding. 8 seconds left. DNA, can they close it out and push their way to grand finals? Caden trying to make one last hurrah. Nothing going there, and that will do it. DNA 3-0, a dominant performance over Good Morning to punch their ticket into the grand finals. And Rissa, once again, it's what we've seen, well, no pun intended, the DNA of DNA. You have one aggressive offensive push, and then you just have suffocating defense throughout the entire game.
I know, as soon as DNA got the lead, they were able to just really... I love the way that they were just constantly stalling out the Rainmaker. They knew that they didn't necessarily need to let the Rainmaker reset or push it any further. They just kept getting a hold of the Rainmaker and making it that much more difficult for Good Morning to even get control of the Rainmaker themselves.
All right, let's go ahead and check out the updated bracket after DNA with a dominant performance, just like they had last week. 3-0, easily walking into the grand finals. They will take on the winner of Mad Titans and TZS. When we come back, we're going to step aside here real briefly. We'll bring you the second part of our semifinals. It's Event 4 of the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more semifinals action.
Whether it's to play your favorite game, to play for school pride, or for the thrill of competition. Play competitively with Play Versus. Visit playvs.com today for more information.
In this house, we bool.
Nice try.
Here we go.
In their house, we duel.
KO. Yes!
In our house, we score. We love teaming up.
Play.
And we love a little competition.
Oh, it's okay. You got it next time. You got it next time.
Ready? Whether it's with family, friends, or rivals near and far.
This is the end.
Block, block, block.
Yes!
So whichever sport you choose, victory could be just within reach. You ready to play? Nintendo Switch Sports. Available now only on Nintendo Switch.
Brave warriors of Adrestia, the time has come to demonstrate the Empire's valor.
We strike at the Imperial Army today.
The party's already starting, huh? We have to figure out exactly where we stand in this war. Who knew the Ashen Demon had that kind of strength? Yeah, I can't believe one fighter could turn the tide of an entire battle like that.
We'll claim victory over that monster together.
Have to keep fighting.
Dying is without productivity. Have you ever read any chivalric romance? I'd
think they're a fascinating group of people myself, but what do you make of them?
Let's link up. Are you ready? Do try to keep up. Back at you. The best way to honor my fallen comrades is by training hard and growing even stronger. Where do these powers come from?
Power itself is neutral. The good or evil comes from the one who wields it.
One day that sword might overtake me, and I'll turn into a monster. Not so fast, you two.
Defeating the Ashen Demon. Everything starts from there. My dear partner in destiny. Like it's something we're meant to do.
I'll let my sword do the talking when I cut the Ashen Demon down.
And welcome back to Event 4 of the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022. Jordan Kent alongside here with 9 and Rissa. We've already made it through one half of the semifinal bracket. That is DNA going 3-0 against Good Morning. But let's go ahead and check out that beautiful bracket and see which two teams will be facing off to take on DNA in the grand finals, and that will be Mad Titans versus Triggerfish Zone Supremacy TZS. And once again, looking at these two teams here, Rissa, Mad Titans, they coaxed Zero out of retirement, one of the top players in North America, so you figure this is a pretty talented team, but you can't just put people into spots. Chemistry, as you know, is very important with these teams, especially when you get to these championship type of tournaments.
Yeah, synergy and chemistry really comes into play when you are putting together a team, especially at a high level too. You really have to know how your teammates play, what they want to do, what their priority is. So with Zero coming into the mix of this previously known team of not F2Win, now turning into Mad Titans, we're going to have to see how Zero comes into the mix of this team.
I think they're mad because they lost to DNA last week as well, too. So we'll see if they take out some of that aggression against TZS. And speaking of TZS here, 9, like every week it seems like we have that one team that's got a couple of quirky members that use some weapons that we maybe aren't familiar with seeing. And we have the lone ink brush in TZS here today.
Yeah, Kraken, very aptly named, is going to be bringing out that ink brush. Has been using that weapon for a long time, and the rest of the members of TZS play off it by using Ninja Squid. So this is a team where you always think that you've taken care of business, you can start pushing forward, but that last member, just enough to stop any push before it gets started.
Well, let's recap the rules here as we get set for our second semifinal round. Don't forget the lower seed will go ahead and choose the mode for the first game. Other team will choose the stage, and after the first game, the losing team will choose the mode for the next game, and the winner will choose the stage. You see your 4 game modes. We're going to start with Rainmaker and everybody's favorite Sturgeon Shipyard. And Rissa, we went to you last time about Rainmaker and Port Mackerel. Now we're in Sturgeon Shipyard. What do you have to keep in mind about this particular map now that you have Rainmaker once again?
this map for Rainmaker in particular is a little bit interesting because it plays a little bit slower than the other Rainmaker maps that we usually see. There's the main route that you do want to take the Rainmaker, which is the top left, but that route is a little bit slower. You have to jump over a gap with the Rainmaker. You have to make sure no one is sharking on the snipe area, the top left area. There's a lot of areas you have to really clear out before you can safely push the Rainmaker. So that's one thing that really stands out to me, is how this map in mode in particular for Rainmaker plays just a little bit slower.
And 9, every single map has that one particular route where you can shave some time off the GPS, as we like to call it. When you're making this leap of faith here in Sturgeon Shipyard, is it best to make sure, hey, we've taken out everybody, we've got a 4-2 advantage, or do you just say, let's go and jump over and try and make that jump to at least get your team to that point where you know that's going to put a lot of pressure on the opposing team?
Yeah, it would be nice to always be able to assure that you have nobody standing between you and the finish line, but sometimes you do have to make, as you put it, the leap of faith, and a lot of that does come down to context awareness here. If you've taken 2 down and the other 2 on the left side, well, it's time to go to the right side here where there's less, and of course you have to know exactly what the score is. You can get it all the way down into the low 40s from a not so dangerous position if you do take that left side, so it'll be on these teams very quickly piece together exactly how many points they need and adapt accordingly.
And of course, we saw in our first semifinal here, Rissa, the range weapons, the E-leaders particularly for DNA was very effective. Do you suspect that some of these backliners for either one of these teams will try to go with something with maximum range, or are you looking for something that might do a better job of covering some of the map territory with ink?
You know, one thing I'm guessing we might see here is some jet squelchers, but we're going to have to see as both of these two teams end up coming out.
And there's 2. All right, as Rissa called it, 2 jet squelchers, 1 for each side here as both teams make their way to the middle. And already we see TZS in the purple quickly trying to get there. You see Kyo and obviously called Thanos here for the Mad Titans here. And already picking up 2 splats, 9, 3 splats, 1, 2, 3. How about the start out the gate for the Mad Titans?
I'm putting the Mad and Mad Titans here. This is the last way that Kyo wants to play this game here. But at some point, you play for the W here. Bertie's going to run this forward, and almost within 30 seconds, this push is not yet done. The big threat is gone here as they finally are able to take out Shaq here, and it is going to be a full wipe. But to get to 6 points in 30 seconds, they are ready for today.
Yeah, if you had any question about whether or not Mad Titans were ready to go and issues with the chemistry, they were answered on that initial push. So steep hill here for TZS. And Rissa, sometimes when you get smacked in the face with some ink like that to start a match, how do you sort of recover and regroup with plenty of time left?
The one thing that you really have to remind yourself is, okay, if the other team's pushed it all the way down to 6, you have to tell yourself, okay, we still have about 4 minutes left of this match. Anything can happen as long as we play this right, don't panic, and make sure that we regroup as a team. So this team has got to be telling themselves, don't worry, guys, we still have about 4 minutes left.
Breathe in, breathe out if you were TZS, but the problem is Mad Titans aren't giving you any moment to catch your breath as they continue to push forward. Still a sizable lead, 98-6, under 3.5 minutes left to go. They have a numbers advantage and a couple of specials ready to go here. 9 now make it another member down for TZS.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating as Zero gets another player. You would not know that this guy has been out of the game for 8 months here. His job is so simple here. He gets armored, he moves forward there, and eventually the opponent is going to have to show themselves to deal with you here, and that can make their Ninja Squid strategy a little less threatening here. They're going to continue to push forward here, try to maintain map control, because they understand that if TZS doesn't have that, their chief weapon is gone.
Huge defensive stop by Kraken. You saw the 2 splats to really put a stop to the push there by Mad Titans, and now it's kind of a neutral game at this point, and 4-3 advantage for TZS on the map, and they've done a good job here, Rissa, of stabilizing, but you have to figure, if you're the Mad Titans, you know that TZS is really going to have a considerable push to try and get back into this game.
Yeah, Mad Titans right now is sitting knowing that they have a lead of 6 already. It's almost a KO, so they have to be sitting really nicely here, knowing that they have a huge lead already out of the gate. And now with them just having constant map control and all these positions on the map, they're controlling the middle of the map, the left of the map, and the right side of the map. that's going to make it so much more difficult for TZS to even think about getting in a position to push the Rainmaker.
And Kyo just surgical with that Squelcher from up top. Here's the Stingray trying to apply a little bit of pressure. And it's still 4-3, TZS on the map. So they've done a fine job of not really giving up much ground. But 9, it's just the pressure's on them because of that initial push.
Yeah, the pressure is there, and it's made the job so much easier for the other members of Mad Titan. Zero has spent the last 2 minutes of gameplay running straight forward into the opponent's spawn and seeing what happens, because he understands if it takes 2 members to get rid of him, that means it's going to be 3v2 for map control, and it does look like finally TZS has created a small advantage for themselves on the right side to try to move up, but just as we say that, Kyo returns to top mid, the range makes it that much more difficult, and they're going to have to figure out a new plan.
Kraken trying to make their way through, trying to get to Kyo and apply a little bit of pressure to take out that backliner. Able to do so, and how about the pick right there? Gets burnt, and now Kraken and TZS here, Rissa. This is their opportunity they've been looking for.
They're finally in a position to grab the Rainmaker and at least put some points on the board. But with specials at the ready already from Mad Titans, we saw that Inkjet, we saw that Stingray. That easily put a stop to TZS's push, and the defense from Mad Titans is looking really, really good.
Yeah, Shaq and also that Inkjet just smashing the cake on the party that they were going to try and have, pushing that Rainmaker. So now under a minute left, it is full control for Mad Titans. Rainmaker set in neutral at this moment, and you just see Shaq all over the place here. Really just that Swiss Army knife for the Mad Titans here, 9.
Yeah, Shaq, such a versatile player, understanding the objective play too and what that can actually look like. And that entire time sitting on that Inkjet, knowing that Kyo had the Stingray as well, it was going to be enough to stop a push if they opted to go to the right. Although I will say now, 2 down, Kyo does have the Stingray. When is he going to opt to use it here? How much ground is he going to cede? 15 seconds left. It's going to take a huge push to get it, but that's 0 out of the way as well. And here comes the Stingray. Can Vapor dodge it?
Yeah, you saw the trade with Kraken. Under 6 seconds left. Vapor dancing around Tenta missiles and the Stingray trying to make their way closer. Still a lot of ground to make up, and that will do it. The Mad Titans claim another stone, grabbing the first game here as they use a dominant early push. But here's what's interesting, Rissa. They had a phenomenal first push, as we mentioned, but from that point on, it was pretty even throughout the match. So if you were TZS, you've got to be feeling pretty confident despite taking the L here.
Yeah, even though at the beginning of the map, it was, as we like to say, a Rainmaker moment where, Mad Titans was able to just push the Rainmaker really fast because they had that opportunity to. I feel like TZS just was constantly doing a good job about balancing, getting back into mid. And as we saw there at the end, they were finally getting that map control and mid control that they really needed to be able to start getting a push going. But it really just came down to the opportunity in the beginning that Mad Titans had and was able to utilize.
And 9, this is probably a difficult question. We saw TZS really control most of the map for the majority of that game. Is that a result of TZS and what they're able to accomplish? Or Mad Titans, you're playing with a sizable lead, you're not going to really try and push forward and try and get map control?
Yeah, I actually do think it was a little more of that second one, Jordan. Whenever you have a player like Zero who is willing to run forward into the opponent's spawn over and over, it's because you again understand that there's very little risk and a lot of reward in doing so. So I think it's almost hard to judge exactly what Mad Titan's game plan is going to be based on that one game.
Yeah, you see Zero going Maverick a little bit there. You're not quite sure what you're going to see from Mad Titans the rest of the way. But now the response here. If you're TZS, you've got to understand here, Rissa, you have to make sure you can't give up that big of a push in the beginning because it really seems to change the entire complexion of the game.
I know, and that's a really good point to bring up too. The way that Mad Titans was able to just get that pressure going immediately and trigger TZS wasn't really able to think about what their game plan was going to be since this was their first moment where they were up against Mad Titans. So they really had to, throughout that whole match, figure out how they needed to approach them.
Well, we do have a sub for one of the teams, so we'll let you know as soon as we find out, but somebody headed to the bench to have a little bit of a chance to catch their breath and get set for the next game here. But looking at the Mad Titans, obviously they're very skilled top to bottom here, and it really feels like they understand their roles here, 9. It's not just 4 individuals, but a team really understanding what each one needs to bring to the table in order for this team to operate at their best.
Yeah, we talked about synergy earlier here. It's important to remember that this is still 3/4 of the team that terrorized North America for a long time. The roles have changed, of course. Kyo probably not too happy having to play Jet Squelcher here, but again, They do understand the important pieces of the game, and that push, the best push I would say that TZS was able to pull together, they went to the left side, and immediately they were met with a Stingray, and then as soon as the Stingray started, Shaq broke out the Inkjet as well. So they were both patient, understanding that the opponent could get to the 60-point marker, and that was all they were getting. So they were able to cede that distance and still stop the push before it ever really became threatening.
Well, we've just been told that there will be no subs, so the same members will get ready here for the next game mode and map. And Rissa, as we wait for that, take us through the art of a backliner, because you know each one of these positions that each team has so well, but a backliner, an elite one, what do they need to bring to the table game in and game out?
Backliners or anchor players in particular are going to be one of the main things they're going to be wanting to do is making sure that they have specials ready for defense. Things like stingrays or missiles that are just constantly ready for defense are so important for them to have ready, and just making sure they're constantly supporting their teammates.
Clam Blitz, Sturgeon Shipyard, and already we see a couple of changes to the loadouts. 9, why don't you walk us through them?
Yeah, well, Vapor is switching over to their true main weapon here, which is the Explosher, not a weapon that you see played a lot at this level. A few notable players, and Vapor is one of them. That's going to make it much easier for them to pick and choose their spots where they want to push forward, and against a team like the Mad Titans here, you do need to be able to put out that damage in one area very quickly, and they've already got 2 down.
Pork Smork trying to hog up some of the territory here. You see doing a fine job of helping TZS get off to a much better start. Booyah Bomb getting dropped. And taking a look at the currency, lots of clams on the side of TZS, and this is the response they're looking for here, Rissa. A really aggressive start to this game.
That was a really, really good and aggressive start from TZS at the start of this game. They had the mid control, they had the clams, they just had to figure out, who was going to be the clam carrier, and while they were figuring it out, that was the perfect moment for Mad Titans to come into mid, start pushing in, and take advantage of that moment, that lapsed moment that TZS had there.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rissa, tossed it to you, then all of a sudden Mad Titans just mopped up TZS. So a little bit of a cleanup there as TZS now knocked onto their heels. But doing a fine job here, 9 so far, of just making sure the Mad Titans don't push too far forward. But here is Burst right up there and tosses in the Power Clam. That'll be an initial push. However, TZS 9 doing a fine job of wiping out most of Mad Titans.
Yeah, you saw that there was a scrap on the right side of the map there where the defense was coming from there. The Mad Titans actually sniffed it out pretty quickly, but weren't able to truly capitalize, and I would argue that that score might actually come back to hurt them here, because that's going to give TZS enough claims to make a big push here. But lo and behold, once again, Zero mowing straight at the members of TZS is once again going to slow this down.
Vapor having to go into the baller to avoid that Booyah Bomb. Still has the Power Clam and just hanging out in the backfield at this moment. Still 80 to 100, 3 minutes left to go here. TZS trying to take a game from the Mad Titans, and a little bit of what we saw before here. Now it's the Mad Titans that seem to really dominate most of the map here, Rissa. You have to like what they're doing, getting so much of their ink on the ground to really put a wall in front of TZS.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job at coming back into mid, making sure that they're playing it slowly. And we saw Kraken there actually sharking on that ink brush. That's exactly why Mad Titans wants to make sure they're painting up mid like this, so that way they can be able to see where someone like Kraken might be sharking. Finally, though, Mad Titans able to utilize these clams that they have and score in another Power Clam.
Shaq was able to just waltz in there and toss the Power Clam, so they fill in a couple of other clams and they build their lead. Still 3-3. You figure a couple of them are just going to slowly fill that basket to keep that timer running. The Mad Titans continuing this push as they are taking out members of TZS. Finally, TZS able to get a numbers advantage, but keep an eye on Bursty trying to sneak in there. No, but the basket will close, but the harm has been done here, 9, with that push from the Mad Titans.
Yeah, and you can see that the Mad Titans identified exactly how they needed to make that push. Rissa called it out there. One of the things slowing them down is not really knowing where the Ink Brush and the other members were. If you have a Burst Bomb rush, or a Suction Bomb rush rather, that can certainly slow that down. But how about this here? This is going to be even more points coming in here. They've got enough to take the lead and a whole lot more. All they needed was top mid, and the pain has not yet stopped.
Oh, TZS comes roaring back to take the lead. Now they are up 27-46, under 90 seconds left to go. The response from TZS has to be a huge confidence boost. We'll see if the Mad Titans can organize and get back. Here comes a Booyah Bomb from Zero, trying to cause some havoc. Zero still hanging out up top, but no Power Clam on the field quite yet for the Mad Titans. At this point here, Rissa, if you were TZS, seems like the focus is all about defense for the final minute.
That's exactly right. With only 1 minute remaining of this match, TZS really just needs to sit back, make sure that they have specials at the ready going into the last minute of this, make sure that they don't get a complete wipe, because if they do that, then that's going to be an easy push for Mad Titans to work on here. So TZS really just has to focus on playing defense.
Mad Titans starting to accumulate clams, though, and so TZS on their heels. It is now 4-2. Here's the opportunity for the Mad Titans. They break the barrier. They're filling the basket, and the Mad Titans have taken the lead with under 30 seconds left. They're now just looking for the knockout, but advantage Mad Titans courtesy that push. You have to love it, and that might do it. One more clam, and the Mad Titans come roaring back to take game 2 and a dominant 2-0 lead. And 9, take us through the last few seconds of that where the Mad Titans took control of that game.
Yeah, it's so frustrating in a game like Splatoon. When you sit back and play defense, you cede so much room, and that entire time they kept getting pushed back a little further, and all that time the Mad Titans were waiting for one thing, and that was to ink Armor Zero, let him go forward, and take on those weapons that the Kensa 52 gal has a tremendous advantage against. They were able to take out 2 members. That gave Mad Titans enough room to move through, and of course, being the Swiss Army knife he is, Shaq, of course, had already built a power clam to start the frenzy.
And so we are gonna get set for tower control in Sturgeon Shipyard, and we'll have a sub. So third time we're going back to this map here, of course. And let's start with this here, Rissa. This is the million clam question here. What is it about Sturgeon Shipyard that seems to be such a popular pick amongst a lot of competitive teams here?
For this, I think Sturgeon Shipyard really, it utilizes a map that's good on all modes, right? So it's good for Splat Zones, Tower Control, Rainmaker, and Clam Blitz. It's pretty balanced. It doesn't play too fast or too slow. It's just this perfect mix of being able to pace out how you want this game to go.
We'll let you know who the sub is here in just a second. But for TZS here, 9, some improvement, of course. You had the lead with under a minute left, but we mentioned it before, you can't cede momentum, and they did by being a little bit too more defensive towards the end of that game. If you're TZS, where does the big adjustment come here if you want to try and take a game off of Mad Titans?
Yeah, it's a great question, because at this point, your main trick, if you will, where you're able to put a lot of ink down and then make use of Ninja Squid, that's already kind of been snuffed out. You've had 2 games, you're not going to catch the opponent, and really you've used 2 of the faster modes already in order to try this. So if that hasn't worked and you now have to go to the slower modes like this tower control, I think more than anything you're just going to have to find a way to slow down Zero as he's moving forward, because everything the Mad Titans are doing right now is playing off of that.
We're going to check the lobbies because of this substitution, so we'll get ready to go here with Game 3 in just a moment. But tower control, Rissa, obviously you've played probably thousands of these games here. What's the key with tower control if you want to keep that thing moving and try to get through these checkpoints where the action really starts to heat up?
Excellent question. For tower control in particular, you really want to make sure that you are almost puppy guarding the tower as it goes through these checkpoints. And when you need to do that, you want to make sure that you're having specials constantly ready, you're pairing specials up with your teammates, and making sure that you don't have too many members of your team go down. So making sure you either have armor, missiles, inkjet, just specials constantly rolling out to be able to have a continuous push of the tower is really important.
Now, I got to follow up with that puppy guarding. I love that term, first of all. Is that more of the description you gave right there, or what do you mean by the puppy guarding?
You know, I think it's important to, it's almost like Rainmaker, right? Where you want to make sure that the person carrying the Rainmaker doesn't go down, because they are the ones pushing objective. So it's almost the same, where you want to make sure the person, or, you know, of course you can have backup person riding the tower, but whoever is riding the tower, you want to make sure they don't go down. That way the team, your team around them, can make sure that they're able to, you know, safely have the tower push forward.
And 9, this is what's interesting. Anytime you get to a checkpoint, it is kind of a 3 or a 3.5 versus 4 for the most part. It feels like your frontliners play such a huge role in trying to advance the tower here, of course.
They do indeed. And how about this? You talk about a sub here. Token one of the premier Rapid Blaster players in the game today is coming in here. Shaq going out, and Jordan, you and I are so happy. We love this weapon, and it has been in the limelight and the darling of so many players as of late.
We are huge Rapid Blaster fans. We'll see what Token can do with it. Obviously more than what Nine and I can do with it. And Kraken already picking up a splat on Token, and that's going to be Mad Titans with the tower here, trying to get to that first checkpoint. Kraken trying to drop down. Ink Rush just getting everything messy at this point, and yes, the tower is now headed back here, and so once again, Rissa, TZS, you've got to credit them for getting off to a decent start and not giving up that big push.
Yeah, great start for TZS right now. I mean, we see Kraken here pushing up with this Inkjet, just adding pressure to Mad Titans. So with essentially getting 2 members down at first onto Mad Titans, TZS is doing a really good job at getting continuous picks onto Mad Titans and being able to try and get mid control around that.
And you saw Token pick up the splat, but then we'll have to write some splat bomb off their shoe as they go ahead and get wiped out there. And let's check out Porksmork moving backwards, trying to get some ink on the ground here. Once again, the tower is advancing, and you have to love this, Nine. If you're the Mad Titans, your tower is pushing, and you're pushing the opponent back.
Yeah, and actually that's a huge pick there on Zero to take that out so quickly. That was going to be a Booyah Bomb on the tower, and of course nothing is slowing that down. You can see Bert desperately trying to dance around on the tower to get to the checkpoint, and with the assistance of those well-timed bubbles from Kyo, that will be that, and that's going to let Zero respawn in time to come and assist with the attack as well. Wonderfully coordinated.
Ink Armor coming up, Booyah Bomb almost ready to go for Zero, and at this point it is the second checkpoint for the Mad Titans. They are just 20 points away from pushing their way to the grand finals, but the tower has been stopped momentarily. 4-3 on the map. TZS, they're trying to push the tower forward. Let's check in with Token, as Token is now chasing things around, trying to apply some pressure with that Rapid Blaster. And so far, TZS, Rissa, they haven't had much luck getting any offense going here in this game.
They have not had much luck getting any offense going, and you can see right now too, Mad Titans is just continuing to add pressure onto TZS. So it's making it just really difficult. All this pressure, the specials, and the map control for Mad Titans is making it very difficult for TZS.
And what's fascinating, Nine, you look at these loadouts and it really feels like Mad Titans have a little bit more range with their shooters than TZS. You wonder if that's playing into some of this aggressive play.
It certainly is, and with just 9, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the game ended right there with that big push, and the Mad Titans taking care of business, but they did such a fantastic job from game 1, 2 to 3 of dismantling TZS's biggest threat, which was a lot of map control, use your Ninja Squid to attack. You saw them pre-firing in every direction to make sure nobody could sneak up on them. That meant that the members of TZS had to rotate back, and that's why they were never really able to mount much of an offensive.
So Mad Titans, a quick snap of the fingers, and they take care of business against TZS 3-0 on their way to grand finals. We'll go ahead and check out the bracket here in just a second, but really again, Mad Titans, that uber aggressive play, they really were able to just keep TZS on their heels, Rissa, for all 3 games, and now it's looking like it's going to shape up to be an unbelievable grand finals. As we check out the bracket, it'll be DNA, who had the 3-0 sweep, versus the Mad Titans. Early look at this here, Rissa. What do you like about this matchup?
One thing I really like about this is we've seen DNA play, and they play very aggressive as well. So with Zero coming on to Mad Titans, I feel like that just adds that much more aggression to Mad Titans. And having these two teams that are both playing very aggressive today, I feel like it'll be a great matchup to watch.
They were called Mad Titans because DNA swept them 3-0 essentially in semifinals last time. They'll get a chance for some retribution, or will DNA claim the championship? We'll find out after a short break. You're watching event number 4 of the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022. Don't go anywhere.
Greetings trainers! This July, it will be 1 year since the launch of Pokemon Unite. Over the course of this past year, many Pokemon have taken part in Unite battles, and new battle types and various events have been implemented. Now, to commemorate the 1 year anniversary, let's introduce new Pokemon that will be taking part in Unite battles, as well as a new type of battle. Glaceon joins Unite battles starting July 21st. You can get Glaceon's Unite license from the IC Glaceon Challenge event. In August, Buzzwole and Tyranitar will arrive. Finally, in September, 3 more Pokemon will be joining the roster. Presenting a new type of quick battle, Boss Rush. Team up with players to defeat powerful boss Pokemon. Unite squads will also be able to compete for rankings in Boss Rush. Try to make it to the top of the rankings. A new system is being added, Pokemon Boost Emblems. Emblems come in 3 different grades, Gold, Silver, and Bronze. You can collect lots of emblems as energy rewards. Battle Pass Season 9 begins. You can get band-style Pikachu holoware. Finally, there will also be an anniversary cake challenge. You can collect frostings to earn rewards. Pokemon Unite will keep getting more and more exciting as it approaches its 1 year anniversary. Events are also planned for September, so please look forward to them. During the first anniversary celebration campaign, you can get Unite licenses and holoware for Pikachu, Blastoise, Lucario, Snorlax, and Sylveon. Also, this is a good time to play with friends. We have lots of great events that are even more fun if you play together. And many more campaigns and events are on the way. Please visit the official Pokemon Unite website for more information about the events and campaigns planned for the 1 year anniversary.
And welcome back to Event 4 of the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022. Jordan Kent alongside 9 and Rissa. We are getting set for grand finals, and as we check out the bracket, it's important to set the stage here. We've got DNA, who waltzed their way 3-0, a sweep, into grand finals, taking on Mad Titans. The Mad Titans, don't forget, most of their members were on Not FT Win, who got swept by DNA in the semifinals last week. Stewing in their anger and wanting some revenge, they pick up one of the top players in North America in Zero, and now they hope that they can strike back and get their advantage against DNA. And so 9, you take a look at this matchup here on paper, and this is everything you're looking for when it comes to top tier play.
It absolutely is, and it's so difficult to set the betting odds on a matchup like this because as strong as the Mad Titans are, it's important to recognize that DNA does have the backliner in the room. Helix, we've been talking about him every set that they've played here, but it does seem like when they're on that E-leader, a weapon that cannot be contested by any of the weapons that the Mad Titans are bringing in, they can completely dictate the flow of the match, and I really think that the map choices here will have a huge role in this matchup.
Let's check out the rules for grand finals. This will be best of 7, so first team to win 4 games. And not a whole lot changes other than the fact Sturgeon Shipyard is a stage you can't select. So this will add a little bit more flavor to things. But once again, lower seed will choose the mode for the first game. The other team will choose the stage. Losing team will choose the mode. Winner will choose the stage. You see your 4 game modes. You can't repeat a game mode until you go through all 4. But the stages, go ahead. Running back here. So Rissa, DNA. Can't spell DNA without defense. We've seen that from them. They specialize really in just making sure they lock down the map versus the hyper offense we've seen of course, the Mad Titans. So you look at this matchup, and who do you give the slight nod to here?
You know, it might
Gonna put you on the spot. Sorry about that, by the way. Pick a favorite.
You know, considering, it's really tough because one thing that stands out to me is Mad Titans actually having Kyo switching over to playing Jet Squelcher. That might make these games more even than last week. So that's one thing that really stands out to me. But considering that DNA did win last week, we'll see if those switch-ups are going to actually work for Mad Titans this week.
Now, during the good chuckle we had, I believe we have tower control coming up next is what we all heard. And this is going to be fun here, Nine, because I think when you look at the way that DNA controls the map and the capabilities of the Mad Titans to push, you feel like these checkpoints are just going to be some epic showdowns.
There will be some epic showdowns, and they'll be more epic by the fact that we actually don't know what Mad Titans roster we're going to see for this, because again, in that tower control match, they opted to bring in Token with that Rapid Blaster Pro Deco, which is certainly a powerful weapon, but it'll be very interesting to see if that was simply a map choice, and Sturgeon Shipyard, a lot of open areas there to make that weapon work, or if it was specifically a tower control counter pick.
And obviously, with tower control here, it comes down to how well can your 3 members hopping off the tower for the most part here, Rissa, take on the opposition. And it feels like if you're going to get to these checkpoints, the numbers as far as who's on the map really plays a huge role.
Oh, absolutely. That's going to be a huge factor in helping push the tower. If you have 1 or 2 members down and someone is still on the tower trying to push it, eventually they're going to go down too, and the whole team is just going to have to restart and regroup. So recognizing if you have area ahead of the tower to safely push the tower, if you have a teammate ahead of the tower, is something really important for the person riding the tower to be able to recognize.
And Rissa, to follow up, we've talked about some backliners. We've discussed some strategy here for those frontliners. What about those flex players that have to play multiple roles like we've seen from Shaq? What do they need to excel in order to really help their teams?
In order to really help their teams, they have to make sure they're paying attention to objective, making sure that they can help teammates take on 1v1s, and just balancing that middle ground between the two.
All right, let's pop a quarter in and hit start here at Anchovy Games. Tower Control, DNA, Mad Titans. Game 1 of Grand Finals here. Both these teams very familiar with one another, but it was DNA who really had the upper hand last time, and already an early Ink Armor coming out here, 9, as Landon trying to push things forward.
Yeah, they're going to use that to ride a little bit of momentum to at least gain some of the control. It's really going to be interesting to see what happens after this early Stingray, and sure enough, that Stingray isn't going to find anybody. It's going to be lots of specials actually coming out of the members of the Mad Titans here, but all the while, it looks like DNA was able to wrestle control of mid away from them there. Zero is going to come in and safely land, but so far, DNA in control.
Nobody really even able to get to that first checkpoint yet. DNA slowly trying to push. You see that Splat Bomb able to push Zero back, followed by the Suction Bomb, so the pressure on that platform. And that's what you feel like you're going to see here, Rissa. A slow, meticulous pace of play where each team is just going to inch their way forward.
Yeah, and we're seeing that right now too. Slowly, DNA is starting to push up into Mad Titans, we call that street area, and slowly get that map control. That's exactly what DNA is doing right now. And looks like they are, with 1 member down, having to back up, back into mid, and meticulously, slowly make sure that they come back together to just guard this tower.
And very impressive by Luke to fish out that splat amongst all the chaos, taking down Zero. Here is Luke hiding behind that splash wall, pushing forward, taking care of business against Shaq. And here's an opportunity for the door to open here, 9.
Yep, huge picks there, and another one following up there from Helix, who has gone back to the Charger, and now gonna have a great angle of attack here. Kill gonna try to duck around and actually gets a lot of the shots here. That's a huge splat to find in that scenario there. That push might have gone the distance if it had not been cleaned up so far, but right now, getting outpaced are the Mad Titans.
Yeah, credit to Kyo for really stopping things there, but the Mad Titans are facing a deficit with 3 minutes left. Here is Shaq. Shaq with that inkjet ready to go, still hanging out on their half of the map here. 3 members of Mad Titans on the map, and right now, Rissa, it's what we see from DNA. Map control and members on the map. This is helping them really control this game so far.
It really is. They're just consistently being able to have the room on the map to be able to move and just keep mid control, making it that much more difficult for Mad Titans to push into mid. Mad Titans, if they want to get into mid to be able to push the tower, they need to be able to have that map control to be able to even move around.
Landon hopping on and off the tower just to keep it moving here. They are slowly approaching the final checkpoint. It is 3-2 on the map. Ink Armor, Landon hopping off to help take care of business. We'll see if DNA can push forward. They get to the final checkpoint. Gonna have to hold it down here and quickly snuffed down by the Mad Titans, but still, with over 2 minutes left here, 9, this is a steep hill for Mad Titans to climb.
Yeah, this has been an unbelievable opening to this game. This has really been a 3-minute push if you think about it, and finally they're going to have the opportunity to move forward and attack here, but the members of DNA have done such a great job of leading with their sub-weapons first. You see that they don't go anywhere without throwing out one of those suction bombs ahead of them there. It's made sure that they've been able to slowly but surely move up, and it's even stronger when you're on the defensive side.
Yeah, really first time this entire game here, Rissa, that we've seen the Mad Titans advance forward and ink the other half of the map for DNA. They're trying to make a push, but as 9 pointed out, just a flurry of specials and sub-weapons. You have to love how coordinated, Rissa, that DNA is as, oh, we get a huge pickup by Helix.
DNA just consistently has been staying, like you said, coordinated, having specials ready, making sure that they are getting picks consistently. Now, though, Mad Titans actually having a Burt here pushed up into DNA Street, acting as a distraction, as finally Kyo is able to start pushing the tower for Mad Titans.
Yeah, Mad Titans trying to have a moment here, under a minute left. They're in the middle of a push, but here comes a Booyah Bomb to put the brakes on that. But they are able to get past the first checkpoint, and it's 4-3 on the map. 9 looking at the field at this moment. What do the Mad Titans need to accomplish at this section?
Well, they did a great job of getting rid of Helix there, and then Helix comes back and takes out 2 members that had already been pushed up, and you hate to aggrandize this any more than we already have, but I'm fairly certain that Helix stopped that push single-handedly with those 2 shots.
Oh, Helix being the almost star of this game right now, putting all sorts of pressure on the Mad Titans, the backliner, holding it down for DNA, but here come the Mad Titans. Once again, under 20 seconds left, trying to get to that second checkpoint. You see Helix retreat, and it is now the second checkpoint in the sights of the Mad Titans. Under 9 seconds left. Bursty up top. He's going to have no problem. This might take the lead for the Mad Titans. Can they do it? No. Booyah Bomb going to slow things down. Overtime here. 0 trying to hop off. Oh, and that is 3 members of the Mad Titans going down, in DNA able to hold on strong down the stretch and take game number 1. Whew, Rissa, DNA got a little close there at the end, but they really seem to keep their composure, especially as things got into overtime at that moment.
They did. They were still able to, DNA was still able to stay in really good positions to have defense. Even though points were ticking down for Mad Titans, they did a really good job at staying on the top right and left of the tower to make sure they were able to be in defense positions and play that safely.
And 9, down the stretch, we saw 0 try to advance the tower, but that Booyah Bomb towards the stretch end at overtime really seemed to just interrupt everything that the Mad Titans were trying to do there in that last gasp effort.
Yeah, it really did, and they played everything perfectly to get themselves into that position, but when you have that kind of a lead, you said earlier, Jordan, the dynamic completely changes, and you know that the second you throw that Booyah Bomb, everyone has to scatter. Your other members are waiting for that moment, and they're going to be able to find some really easy splats if they position well, and at this level, DNA is not going to let that opportunity go to waste.
So DNA essentially has now won 4 straight games against the majority of the members of Mad Titans. And if you're the Mad Titans, you have to figure here, Rissa, you've got to be able to take more control of the map. That seemed to be the biggest difference in this game. It really wasn't until but the 2-minute mark that they finally were able to push forward and get into the other half of the map.
Yeah, that's one of the main things I was thinking was, as soon as Mad Titans was able to actually get map control, that allowed them to be able to start pushing the tower, actually have specials ready. And I feel like once they were able to actually have specials ready and able to coordinate them together, that's when they were actually able to start getting points on the board there at the end.
So 9, we have Splat Zones and Anchovy Games yet again. Now, instead of all the action extending to spawn, it's going to be clustered in the middle. What do you expect to see from both these teams? Because obviously this completely changes the dynamic of this map.
Yeah, it does. And this is a map and mode in particular that a lot of people are very familiar with here. I'm not at all surprised to see DNA opt to come back here because Helix's Firefin Splatter Scope is going to have a great time on this map. If that is indeed what they opt to go with here, you're going to see a lot of bomb rushes from both teams with neither side willing to cede their plat, which is the area just past those fans.
Game 2, DNA taking on the Mad Titans. DNA trying to take a 2-0 lead. Mad Titans trying to even things up here. And Rissa, if you take a look at the loadouts here, what do we see from both these squads?
Both of these teams, we see a few minor switch-ups. Kyo going to play the Vanilla Jet Squelcher this time, and then actually Helix is going to be playing the E-Leader instead of the Splatter Scope. Another thing that does stand out to me too is Mad Titans has a Kensa Splatter Shot now, so they might be able to utilize those missiles to help them get the zone.
So early on, the first zone going to the Mad Titans. They build a 5-point lead, but quickly regained by DNA. And this is going to be a back and forth affair all game long here, 9. And so far, you have to give the early edge to the Mad Titans.
Yeah, DNA's done a pretty good job to not let too many of their members go down, and this is the watchful eye of Helix that we're going to need to keep an eye on here. This is a weapon that's going to be able to dictate the way that the Mad Titans opt to push in, and I think that's one of the big reasons why you saw them go with a double missile composition to deal with Helix from a distance.
And Helix's ability to babysit the zone will really be huge for DNA, and Mad Titans trying to interrupt that though, and the Mad Titans building up this lead, and really it goes back to what the issue was last game here, Rissa. They couldn't control the map. This time around, they are certainly getting map control.
Yeah, this time around, it's looking a lot better for the map control for Mad Titans. They're able to consistently keep map control, and in turn, that's allowing them to have specials more. When they have specials more, they're able to keep pushing back DNA. Now, though, on the flip side, DNA has got the zone, and it's their turn to start pushing back Mad Titans.
And 9, look how far Zeke is pushing forward. Obviously, some ink armor for the Mad Titans at this point, but they have really locked out this zone and started to push the Mad Titans back.
Yeah, some pandemonium there, and Bert's going to opt to paint forward a little bit and gets taken out there. I was about to say, how exposed are you willing to be? And Kyo opting to scrap as well here with Helix. They might actually give up a little bit too much, but no, another member has come back, and an incredible shot onto 0 by Helix to keep this game within reach.
Near or far away, Helix has got you in their sights, and just a dominant performance staring down the scope and helping their team regain control of the zone. Helix, the early MVP of this game, helping DNA get back in control. Now, can their other members extend forward? Tenta missiles coming out from Zeke, and this is what DNA is trying to do here, Rissa. Snatch that zone and then change from defense to aggressive offense. What do you like about the way that they've been able to keep the Mad Titans out at this point?
I love the way they're able to just, it seems like they're constantly chaining specials and having those ready. We get to see Zeke's point of view here, not only continuing to have missiles at the ready, but also just juggling the other team's, we call that street area. And that is just a distraction for Mad Titans. It's not allowing them to be able to come back into the zone.
8 seconds left. DNA trying to hold on. Here is Zeke trying to clean things up, but no, Zeke goes down, and that allows an opportunity for the Mad Titans to regain the zone. And look at the penalty here, 9, because all of a sudden, with 2 minutes left, it's a whole new game.
Wow, wow, wow. If Zeke had been able to take out even one of those members, the game might have ended right there. The Mad Titans being able to quickly pivot and have 3 people fire on that player as these penalty points start to go down. You see all the members here of Mad Titans moving back here. They understand that they're going to need to build their specials very quickly. Shaq very close to some missiles. Kyo already used the missiles here. They need to hold it, and none of them can go down.
And just like that, DNA able to take the zone once again, able to apply the penalty. So they'll buy themselves some time. 4-3 on the map. 2 members go down. 3 members go down. 3-2 DNA on the map. Now it's down to 2-2 at this moment. It is going back and forth, an opportunity for DNA to take the zone, and they do, but still a lofty penalty that they have to overcome. And again, this is starting to heat up here, Rissa, but it feels like DNA able to respond to every single offensive push the Mad Titans are throwing their way.
DNA is definitely able to make sure that they're setting up in these awesome defense positions and making it that much more difficult for Mad Titans to come back into the zone. And then paired with constant booyah bombs, armor, and missiles is just making it so difficult for Mad Titans to be able to even move.
Yeah, Mad Titans, all 4 members still on their half of the map. Zero trying to throw a suction bomb, trying to approach closer. You see that splat wall, that'll provide a little bit of cover. Zero trying to go hunting. Zero, no, goes down. 2-3 on the map advantage. Mad Titans at this point, they have taken control of the zone though. A back and forth battle, 9, as we are certainly going to go into overtime. And here again, Mad Titans with the control. It feels like they're really starting to stabilize here, 9.
Yeah, and this is the chief frustration here. They haven't been able to get anybody up on the fan to attack the members of DNA here. You see Burt tries to move up, immediately has to move back. Now the attack is coming in, holds onto that very, very smartly. And let's see if they can even take the zone here. They do have the advantage here. They're going to need to get rid of this Booyah Bomb very quickly. You see Burt and Zero moving forward. They do get it. Needs to punish this jump. Is able to. Burt taking over this game. And there's not much time left. If they get one more person up here to help Burt, this might be the game and a comeback.
Hold on to your ink tanks here. Overtime. Mad Titans with the zone. They are just 17 seconds away from taking the lead, but as you see from the overhead shot, in full control. DNA, they need specials. 5 seconds left. Can the Mad Titans hold on to take the second game? Here comes the Ink Storm, and the Mad Titans able to surge back and take control of the zone, and they have tied up grand finals 1-1. An unbelievable display of resilience here, Rissa, as you look at the Mad Titans able to just continue to do what they do, apply pressure, and they got some major picks at the end there.
Oh, they absolutely did. And I think the MVP there at the end might have been Burt, Bursty there. Just taking, as the support player, it seemed like Burt all of a sudden recognized, hey, I actually need to play really aggressively here. And that paid off so well because with the NZAP, able to also give armor to their teammates and then push up and get picks. And that really allowed that stagger there for DNA to not even be able to come into the zone.
9, can we just call the TO and just do Splat Zones and Anchovy games for the rest of the way? Because that right there, you're not going to see it any better than that, any more competitive than what we saw both those teams doing there. I mean, there's so much you can take away. Where do you even begin from that last game?
I mean, I guess we'll look at the very end, and Rissa, you said it very well there. Bursty, in that exact moment, we called it mid-game. They needed to encroach on that Booyah Bomb user, not let them throw the Booyah Bomb and get away scot-free. Zero and Bursty moved up there. Zero opted to go to the left, and Bursty kept moving forward. And I mean, you talk about recognition and composure, the buzzwords we like to throw out all the time, but that's a split-second decision that Bursty had to make, and it was the perfect decision.
Rissa, you also go back to that moment where it really felt like DNA was going to close the door, and all they needed to do was get one more pick. They couldn't get it, and this is when Mad Titans were at 54, and it goes to show you just moments like that, even with a minute and a half, 2 minutes left, they can completely change the course of the game.
Oh, absolutely. And it comes down to sometimes that moment where the team needs to figure out what is the thing that's keeping us from getting to objective right now. And it seemed like in that moment that you're highlighting there, it was Zeke. And Zeke was just doing such a good job at acting as a distraction, keeping that street area. And finally, once Mad Titans took out that distraction, it just spiraled from there.
Rainmaker and Anchovy Games is the new Sturgeon Shipyard, baby. So as we get set for Rainmaker, we go back to what we saw tower control here, 9. The action's not going to necessarily be concentrated in the middle of the map. You're going to have to extend. But because of the way that you have the fans, how does that change where you might take the Rainmaker and the route you decide to go with?
Yeah, I think that where you take the Rainmaker is kind of predicated on your attack here, and going all the way to the right with the Rainmaker, very ill-advised, almost a joke in the community of saying never take it over there if you want to win. But the fans do present a really, really interesting opportunity for your attackers to move forward here. So expect Zeke, expect Zero, those types of players to pick the best avenues to try to attack. And After 2 games like that, I have no idea what to expect here in number 3.
Yeah, you really don't, because it feels like, Rissa, that ever since that first game, Mad Titans have done a better job of just getting more map control. We keep saying it, it's the buzzword of these grand finals, I get it, but it really, to me, felt like that's what helped them get over the hump in this last game. Rainmaker, still very important, of course, to make sure that you have plenty of room to move forward when you have that Rainmaker.
Yeah, and then on a map like Anchovy Games 2, of course, there's the mid control, but this map is a little bit interesting. It has different levels that you need to control on your side and the other side of the map. So not only do you need that mid control initially, but you also need to make sure that you're controlling your team's spawn area, and then eventually the other area, team's spawn area too.
And it really feels like 9 and Rainmaker, you can't afford to have those 4-2 moments, those 3-1 moments, because things can happen so quickly. It's arguably the fastest objective you can get to of these 4 games as far as dunking it at the end. So it feels like really not overextending yourself and getting yourself into precarious situations will be huge.
Overextension is the name of the game here. Both of these teams have players who like to go ahead and try to open up a play for their team. We'll see if they can rein it in a little bit here in Game 3.
It is an all-star showdown here for Game 3. DNA, Mad Titans, both these teams with 1 win apiece. First one to 4 will claim the championship here. Let's check out Bursty, who was so clutch in the final seconds of that last game. Just trying to find some positioning, avoid these Tenta missiles, and will throw out the Ink Armor here, Rissa, to help their team. But so far, you see the Mad Titans slowly advancing forward.
Yeah, Mad Titans there. Unfortunately, having 1 member go down actually had to have them start backing up once they were almost about to start pushing to mid here. So with DNA now in control of the Rainmaker, they've started to put points on the board. They have this Booyah Bomb ready too. And as they throw out the Booyah Bomb, their Rainmaker carrier does go down. So a really, really good stop here from Mad Titans.
And then you see the 2-on-1 Bursty part of that, able to pick up the splat. They're going to go ahead and burst the shield here for the Rainmaker and start moving forward with it to try and get on the board. They finally do. Bursty got a little bit of space here, but trying to get one of those fans up the way. Meanwhile, DNA, most of their members here tonight, they are pushed back by Spawn at the moment.
They are, and this Stingray might be enough to save the game for them. Kyo had actually pivoted to the bottom side of the screen, so probably trying to crash in once the push had gotten to a certain distance. Of course, a well-timed Stingray certainly going to slow that down. You see they haven't quite worked their way back to mid yet, and Zero actually still up there to fight, and unbelievable fall-off shots to get that. This push might have legs yet.
Shaq, a remarkable display of shot making here as Bursty backs away from those Booyah Bombs. DNA still with the lead, but you get the feeling that all of a sudden the Mad Titans take it from a Mad Titans sprinting ahead. They've now got the lead. Still more ground up ahead. Oh, they get the picks. Here comes the opportunity, but no, at the last second, DNA, Rissa, able to get that critical splash. And that'll save the game so far for DNA.
That was so close for DNA to just make sure that they stopped that KO from happening. Being able to just make sure that they're constantly throwing out bombs and then also making sure they dropped on the Rainmaker like that was really, really crucial for them. There are still about 3 minutes left of this match, so anything can happen as we go into the last 3 minutes.
As Rissa said, under 3 minutes left, 3 specials ready to go for DNA. So here's an opportunity for them to take the Rainmaker and run with it. However, it is still just sitting there unclaimed, ready to be snagged by somebody, because the Mad Titans here tonight, they've done a really remarkable job of just controlling their half of the map.
They have, and one other thing they've done a great job of is they haven't gotten separated from one another quite as much. You've seen in the previous games, DNA has used their sub-weapons to separate the members of the Mad Titans and then encroach on them as they start to move forward. This time that has not been as big of an issue here, as we see maybe a little bit of a danger zone 2 going down. This Stingray needs to find the Rainmaker and does. Whoa! That almost got out of hand and the push is not yet done.
Kyo at the last moment able to save the bacon of the Mad Titans. Kyo, picks up a nice splat on Helix, now facing down a 2-on-1, trying to escape. Can't though, but the other members of the Mad Titans there to clean things up. 2-2 on the map. And both teams just waiting for a couple more of their forces to join. It's still deep into the territory for the Mad Titans. Shaq trying to push forward here at this moment. It's the defense that really is going to be critical here, Rissa, for the rest of this game, because the Mad Titans have this lead to play with.
The Mad Titans do know they have this very big lead, and now they just need to make sure with about 1 minute and 30 seconds left of this that they are not going to go down with things like the missiles. That Stingray are going to be really, really crucial here as we get ready for the end of this match.
Zeke with a splat on 0, trying to move forward here, apply some pressure on Kyo and company in the back. You've got a lot of members of Mad Titans back near spawn. Rainmaker in control of DNA. You've got dueling Stingrays here, 9. It looks like the end of one of our favorite video games here. Let's see if DNA can make this push here, 9.
Yeah, this is scary here, and Helix has moved up to a great spot. Zero has the opportunity to take him out, and is able to get another one here, but there's still one member left. They need to get rid of this member in order to stop the push here. I don't think that they're going to opt to try to grab this here. They're going to simply let it retreat back to mid, and now suddenly keep an eye on all of the specials here. Stingrays for both teams, Booyah Bombs, missiles, that's what they're going to opt to do. Kyo playing so far back, respecting the fact that one final push might be all they have left to stop.
And that's the thing, you're going to have the special save for offense for DNA, but you know that Kyo is sitting on that Stingray most likely. Here it comes, Kyo trying to clean things up, and Kyo gets that pick they're looking for. Now we're under 30 seconds here, and Rissa looks like time is running out for DNA.
Time is running out here for DNA, and with one member down, they're going to have to figure out what they need to do to get to the Rainmaker. Looks like the Rainmaker is about to reset. We see Zeke here pushing up, starting to, maybe potentially have someone grab the Rainmaker behind them, but with the Rainmaker resetting, this might be game.
And just like that, there was really only one honk of the overtime horn and then a quick pick. So the Mad Titans have now ripped off 2 straight wins to take a 2-1 lead here, 9. And it really feels like they're trying to figure out the way that DNA is operating, and they are solving all of the issues that plagued them in that first game. You get the sense that the momentum is starting to swing in favor of the Mad Titans.
You do get that sense, but I want to reiterate to everybody here, I know at the end of that Splat Zones game, we can say it was on a razor's edge because it was 5-6 at the very end, but Kyo getting the pick with the Stingray on that one really big push that DNA was able to make. Had Kyo not gotten that, that might have been the knockout. One member was behind the Rainmaker, the other 2 were coming out of spawn here. So you talk about sitting back on your special, sometimes it's a little too passive, but sometimes it's your only option.
And Rissa, we've seen this before. Sometimes you can dominate for an entire game, but if you just sleep for that 15 to 20 second span, all of your hard work, all of your dominance out the window, and it feels like the Mad Titans have done a good job of not giving up those critical mistakes that can swing an entire game.
Yeah, it seems like they really figured out what they needed to do compared to last week. They're really recognizing, hey, we need to make sure that we're playing a little bit more passively when we need to. And I really like, too, that they're recognizing when they need to play aggressive and then when they need to play, more passively and play defense. And that's one of the things that is really standing out to me for their gameplay this week.
So Clam Blitz will be next year. It's our final game mode. We have to play before we can repeat them again. And I'm just going to take a wild guess. It's going to be Anchovy Games. We'll see if that's true or not here, 9. But with Clam Blitz, with both of these teams, now you're not going to have that necessarily huge initial push that can possibly win the game. We know that can happen, but it feels like these teams are just too balanced to give that up at the beginning here. What's going to be the most important thing, in your opinion, with both these teams, the way that they play as we get set for Clam Blitz?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, and obviously it's a map-dependent thing, but you can very much overextend in Clam Blitz. And I think a lot of people look at Clam Blitz as we can jump somebody in and try to score one clam. And, if that's all we get, that's fine. But don't forget the pity claim, as we aptly call it here, the free power claim you get when your basket closes after a defense. If you send too many people in to try to score, give up too much of mid, the opponent can counter with an even bigger punch than they just got hit with.
Clam Blitz, Inkblot Art Academy. So I was wrong. That's happened plenty of times in my life before here. Rissa, you look at this map, this mode, obviously this is a fantastic combination here. What stands out to you when you get set to collect some clams at Inkblot Art Academy?
Inkblot Art Academy clams is a little bit interesting in terms of one of the things you have to do in order to score that power clam to start putting points on the board is you have to go over on the left side. There's we call it an uninkable area where you can't be in squid form to swim, or you have to expose yourself straight when you go straight to the clam basket and go up the steps that are there. So either way, it's a little bit risky, and if you're able to play that safely, you can definitely get some big points on the board.
And that's what it's going to really come down to, 9. It feels like the team that can hit the longest home run here is going to get that victory. I don't see this being necessarily a slow, meticulous back and forth. I think there's going to be that one team that lands that punch here. How do you make sure you aren't opening up yourself to get exposed that much when your basket is now finally available for the other team?
Yeah, I think, again, it's not overextending. It's understanding that if you jump at the opponent where they're scoring, there's almost always one member that wants you to do that, that is waiting, that is protecting their teammate who is standing still and throwing the clams in. So we'll see how these teams are able to remain composed and resist the urge to fight at every turn.
Mad Titans have won 2 straight games to build a 2-1 lead over DNA, but it's been DNA that has just been a few moments away from being up 3-0. We'll see if they can seal the deal this time around. Both teams just acquiring their seafood at the moment, trying to get those power clams. You see Landon and the crew on the left-hand side of the map. Here comes Zero racing in, though, to apply a little bit of pressure in the middle and some Tenta missiles as we see Kyo here. Rissa start to advance forward, and the special's really starting to rain down for the Mad Titans.
I love the way we're getting to see the use of these double missiles from Mad Titans. It's really allowing them to be able to move through them and start pushing up. And even though they haven't necessarily gotten any picks yet onto DNA, any splats yet, they are able to use those missiles to push up and get this map control that they need.
Shaq with the first power clam of the game, going to unleash some more of those Tenta missiles to try and displace DNA, but Shaq trying to maneuver. Oh, picks off a huge splat here, another huge splat. It's Shaq! Oh, call it a three-peat. And just like that, a full wipe. Mad Titans filling the basket, getting ready for the clam bake at this moment, and an unbelievable individual effort as the Mad Titans surge ahead with the lead here, 9.
Yeah, 39 points left. I do think that's all they're going to get is 3 members firing on Zero, who does manage to escape with his life there, but I mean, you saw right there, the members of DNA thought that they had an opportunity to encroach on Shaq as the clam carrier there, and they were actually able to take out the member who was guarding Shaq, but Shaq, no stranger to these moments, able to make a huge individual play, and I mean, this is already a great score, and they've already got another power clam, Jordan.
And that's the aggression that's really starting to overcome the defense of DNA as Bursty dodging around Tenta missiles and Booyah bombs. And right now, it's been the ability of the Mad Titans here, Rissa, to just avoid the onslaught of DNA and really winning some of those critical one-on-ones and 2v1s.
They're making sure that, I think it's important to recognize they're taking on 1v1s that they need to, or they're backing away from ones they don't. But now DNA actually scoring clams into the basket, getting a few points on the board here. I don't know, though, if they'll be able to get any more clams in.
Not enough, though. 50, very impressive off the get-go, but it is no 39. And so now both teams have huge penalties that they'll have to overcome. Here is Helix just hanging out, scooting over to the right, trying to avoid some more ink coming down, but they go down courtesy of Zero as Zero starts to advance forward with that ever-present 52 gal. At this point, Booyah Bomb coming out, and this is where the Mad Titans have been successful here, 9. They just get up to the second level of this map, and just like that, burst open the barrier once again.
Yeah, and they're so meticulous about the way they do it too. You saw that Zero didn't opt to go forward onto onto Helix rather that time, until the missiles had already come up and a little damage had been provided. Zero has gotten behind them again here, actually, is going to encroach and attack onto Luke here. They don't yet have a power clam, but they have complete control of the center of the map. They might jump back and try to grab the power clam by their basket, but instead they're going to opt to forego the small score, maintain control, and try to go for the knockout their next time through.
And that's what you said, maintain control. They had an opportunity to really try and force something there, but they back up and regroup at this moment. 4-3 on the map, special ready to go. Bursty with that power clam, trying to make their way up the steps. Booyah Bomb about to come out here for the Mad Titans, and they are cleaning house, and here's an opportunity, but oh, the Booyah Bomb coming out by DNA, and finally DNA able to regroup, but Rissa, they're still down 3-1 on the map.
They are, and I actually recognize too that DNA had their junior DC from the match, so I don't know what the rules are for the DC and if it was in the time allotted, but their junior did DC there at the end.
No, and that is unfortunate because the game will have to go on, play it as it lies, Happy, so the Mad Titans able to pick up a 3rd straight game, and that just goes that way sometimes. So the Mad Titans now just 1 game away, and some unfortunate luck there, 9, but it still felt like the Mad Titans were in full control of that game the entire time.
Yeah, the way that their gameplay as a whole has changed from that very first game, it's unbelievable, right? We said in that last game, the first game, they were getting separated. The suction bombs, the missiles, they were forcing the members apart. This time, it seems like they've adopted that and instead completely flipped it around. And, you know, maybe losing that Splat Zones game changed DNA, got them a little bit more nervous. It seems like they're the ones taking the ill-advised fights now, but that so often happens when you play against a team of this caliber. You can't get too antsy.
And Rissa, to you, what have you seen from the Mad Titans over the last 4 games? Because something certainly has changed. They went from really not putting up too much of a fight in game 1 to now pretty dominant over the last 3.
Something that really stands out to me is the way that they're able to utilize Zero's aggression. And they're doing that by making sure that, and Zero too, of course, as the player, able to push forward with armor, with missiles, and being able to wait for those specials, and then their teammates having the specials ready for Zero to push in like that is something that I think that they really perfected here in these last 2 games we got to watch.
It'll be interesting here, 9, what game mode DNA goes with. Do they go with Splat Zones? Do they go with Tower Control? All 4 game modes now back in play. Of course, the map choice will go to the Mad Titans. They've gone with Anchovy games before. Maybe they go back to Inkblot Art Academy. But what's the thinking here of your DNA? What mode do you feel the most confident in as you try to stay alive here in Grand Finals?
I mean, you've won one mode. And I think that's the mode you go back to. I think you go to Tower Control and tell the Mad Titans, hey, prove it. You've outplayed us these last couple of games. You've started to figure something out. Let's see if you can figure out the mode that we beat you on, and quite comfortably beat you on, I will add. So I think that's where they're going to go. The map choice is going to be huge here. So I think that's the one that they're really going to want to identify. Of course, if you go with a map that's too close quarters here, it can be difficult to get a longer push going, and it becomes a special battle. But if you opt to go on too wide of a map, suddenly you really enable Helix to dominate the game.
So Tower Control, and we'll go back to Inkblot Art Academy. Rissa, give us the rundown here of this mode and map. Obviously, Mad Titans feeling very comfortable about this stage as they reselect it.
Yeah, for Tower Control, Inkblot Art Academy in particular, one thing that really comes into play here is the first checkpoint actually starts to become really important here. You want to make sure that your teammates are pushing up into the left side, the top left of this map, and that will be really, really crucial for them to start having that aggression, for allowing their team to push up and be able to start pushing the tower.
And 9, to that point, the fact that the first checkpoint is arguably one of the most important, how important is the fast start? Are you trying to race out the gate and try and get the tower, or do you want to really make sure, hey, everything's in place, we're ready to go with our push, okay, now let's advance?
Yeah, I think it depends on what members of the opposing team are still posing a threat to you. If you take out the backliner and you know that the last 2 members of the enemy team are short-range shooters, well, they're either backing way up or they're going straight for the tower. They've only got 2 options. They don't have the range to do anything else. So I think if you get a situation like that, you absolutely go forward and take as much ground as you can. If it's the long-range members of the opposing team, that's actually what they're hoping that you'll do. So really the cognizance and the ability to adapt.
We'll see if the Mad Titans can complete their payback and get game number 4 here and win the championship, or can DNA evolve and get a victory here finally to make it 3-2 and force a game 6. Both squads racing towards the middle, Zero in the lead right now for the Mad Titans, and it really feels like Landon here with this ink armor. That's going to help an aggressive early push for DNA, Rissa, as we see Landon already get on top of the tower.
Yeah, Landon already getting on the tower to get points onto the board. Though having to back up as Mad Titans instantly has missiles and a Stingray ready, and that now has in turn caused 2 members of DNA to go down at the start of this match.
2 members down and Landon near the spawn, so they really push DNA back. And 9, you said it. You push everybody back, you get on the tower, you advance, and just like that, Mad Titans nearly through that first checkpoint.
Yep, they're going to opt, and they might have backed up a little too far here. We'll see if it resets. They've instead decided it's more important for them to get their missiles off, and look at this, a big threat on the flat. Thank goodness for Zeke's Booyah Bomb here. Might slow it a little bit, but look at this. Zero's already up there. A Stingray is going to support. They take out Zero, so the immediate threat's certainly gone, but there's just no room against these teams.
First checkpoint cleared for the Mad Titans. Tenta missiles coming out. Helix this time trying to get DNA to their first checkpoint. 4-4 on the map. Ooh, Inkling down. 4-3 now for DNA. Here's the opportunity here, Rissa. This is exactly what you're looking for if you're DNA on your initial push.
Yeah, this is exactly it. We're seeing 2 members trying to push up into this top area of Mad Titan spawn and take down where Zero is right now. Helix and Dark up here just trying to act aggressive while Landon and Helix start pushing safely past the second checkpoint.
DNA pushing past checkpoint number 2. Helix retreating quickly with that super jump, able to provide some backline support. The damage has been done on that push now at 42-71 here, 9, and 2 checkpoints cleared. scared. If you're DNA, do you focus on the defensive end, or do you still have to play aggressive?
I think the one thing you do is make sure that the left side, that uninkable area that Rissa called out there, that's the one spot you cannot give up. If the opponent's going to throw a bunch of suction bombs at your plat area, that's fine. You can take a Stingray here, but you cannot let them encroach. And look at that. 2 members immediately moving in that direction to make sure that's the one spot of the map they don't cede.
Booyah Bomb, Stingray, all coming out here. DNA able to survive it. Mad Titans still can't get through the first checkpoint. So a fantastic job here so far by DNA by holding the ground. Tower's going to go ahead and just keep moving forward though. But Dark, nicely done to reclaim control. He gets the splat on Kyo. And now DNA, you feel like here, even though they're down 2-1, it's actually a complete wipe here at this point, Rissa. They have an opportunity still. They've got to rush to the tower here at this moment though.
They do. They have to make sure for DNA that they're getting in a position to play defense right now. I love, though, that Mad Titans has recognized that this is their moment to be able to push the tower. They are on it and getting points down. And paired with the Stingray, they are doing everything they can to try and get the lead.
Oh, but all of a sudden the Mad Titans have now taken the lead after clearing the second checkpoint, and the pressure is back on DNA. Dark trying to move around, apply a little bit of pressure with those burst bombs, teaming up right next to their teammate, trying to push forward. That tower nearly gets to the last checkpoint, and now DNA will have to switch gears to offense here, 9, and so the Mad Titans doing what they need to do to regain momentum.
Yeah, that was almost a perfect push for them. They had all of the specials that they needed to sneak the members up onto that left side. That's not an easy thing to do here, and it's now going to be on DNA to do the same. I will say that they've actually made a little bit more progress than I thought they would, and you can see that they're attacking this right side straight on Kyo. A huge shot to take out Dark. That was their lead aggressor here. Right now, this Stingray trying to go for a little gravy here is going to find it with the assistance of Zero, and that's another push to Fuse with just 1 minute left on the clock.
Kyo illuminating the night and helping the Mad Titans fortify their lead. They've got the tower. They've got the lead. Time is on their side. Under a minute left. Can they close it out and get the championship here? Zero climbing to the top of this platform, backing off, providing a little bit more support with that splash wall. Booyah Bomb ready to go in the holster. Tower resetting back to neutral. And Rissa, at this point, if you're the Mad Titans, what is the focus with the lead and under 40 seconds left?
Right now, you do know that you have the lead if you're Mad Titans, and right now you just need to really, in the last 30 seconds of this, make sure you make it really difficult for DNA to even get to the tower. That's exactly what Mad Titans is doing right now, and that's exactly the way they need to play this going into the last 20 seconds of this.
Under 20 seconds left. Shaq and Zero at spawn, trying to be the backbone of this final defensive stand. Can DNA push through? Under 10 seconds left. 2 specials ready to go for the Mad Titans. They are just moments away from a championship. Kyo on that Stingray. All sorts of pressure on the tower. DNA is going to have to hold strong in overtime, and that will do it. They are inevitable as the Mad Titans get the final win 4-1, and they are your grand finals champions here in Event 4. And 9, you said it, the evolution of the Mad Titans game after game. We saw them improve in front of our eyes.
And it really shows exactly how much this means when even a player like Zero, who throughout his career has epitomized running forward and worrying about what comes after later, jumps back at the end, maybe ceded a little too much ground. I wondered what he was cooking, but it turns out that alongside Kyo Stingray was just enough. The other members jumped down, and I mean, what an evolution. That first game, they were getting outpaced. For 99% of the second game, they were getting outpaced. But this team, man, these players, they figured it out.
Let's go ahead and check out the final bracket as we have now closed the door on event number 4 and the Mad Titans 4-1 over DNA. They added Zero to help get some revenge against DNA after getting swept in the semifinals of event 3. And the strategy certainly worked. So the Mad Titans will be your grand prize winners. First prize, of course, going to DNA. And so, Rissa, a lot of fantastic action here today. What stood out to you about the Mad Titans and what we saw from them all day long as they were eventually our champions?
I think what really stands out to me about Mad Titans and how 9 just talked about too is their ability to adapt. And all of a sudden there was a switch that turned on right in the middle of this set that really was the thing that enabled them to figure out what the weakness for DNA was.
Well, that'll do it for event number 4 of the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022. And boy, there were some fireworks down the stretch there, but congratulations to the Mad Titans. Huge thanks once again to Nine and Rissa. Excellent job joining us up here again today. And a huge shout out to our entire production crew. Don't forget to keep it checked into Nintendo Versus for all of your Nintendo competitive action. From all of us here, thanks again for joining us for the Splatoon 2 Inkopolis Showdown 2022. We'll see all of you next time.
Whether it's to play your favorite game, to play for school pride, or for the thrill of competition. Play competitively with Play Versus. Visit playvs.com today for more information.
Welcome, all you kids and squids, to our recap of the Splatoon 2 Fresh 4 Championship 2021. My name is Ninehole Grains, I'm a Splatoon commentator and a huge fan of the game, and I cannot be more excited to bring the action to you here today.
Hi everybody, my name is Milana and I'm an enthusiastic squid kid just like you. Today we're joined by two teams, Not FT Win and Starburst, two of the best teams in North America duking it out for a trophy featuring Judd and Lil Judd. Without further ado, let's take it to game number 1.
Game 1 was a story of decisive movement and trusting your game plan, and boy did these teams get it started early.
That's right, Nine. We can see here Kyo getting an early splatted by Bran and Ice. And both members of Starburst moving to that advantageous positioning and, really just holding down that zone where they need to be.
It's not easy to take back against this team, and take a look at how Not FT Win did it. Look at all those bombs flying from left to right, booyah bombs, suction bombs, splat bombs. Woo! Had to back all the way back and give up the zone there.
Yeah, and we can catch that slow-mo replay in case you missed a little bit of that action. As we can see here, some of those suction bombs running in and trying to catch that zone from Not FT Win. And what is important here to notice is that two members of FT Win trying to combine their specials to hold that zone, and because there's power in numbers, Nine.
There absolutely is power in numbers. I see what you did there, and this is actually a strategy that they used multiple times throughout this game. We actually have it from the perspective of Bagel this time, who is lined all the way back, tossing the suction bombs from as far away as possible, understanding that they need to stay on the map if they want to take the zone. Out the corner of your eye, you'll also see that Kyo had jumped down with another bomb rush as well. It was just enough to take the zone back as they were on the verge of defeat. With just over 10 seconds left, they bought themselves some more time.
And like we said, positioning. Biscuit here is taking kind of a dangerous position and unfortunately gets picked off by Ice, but Ice here using that pick to make space and take a more advantage spacing so that they can protect the zone.
The two teams traded punches back and forth through the rest of it until this final decisive hold here from FT Win. Bagel once again gets it started out with that suction bomb rush, but take a look here, holding down this area by this fan to ensure that his teammates could move up. You're gonna see here just in a moment, Kyo backs up here next to Bagel and uses another bomb rush in order to force the members of Starburst all the way back. Once they got this portion of the map, Milana, they never let it go.
That's right, Nine, and we see that timer ticking down, and this was the decisive play that gave them the victory.
A fantastic game number 1, and let me tell you, when we saw that game number 1 looked like this, we knew we're in for one heck of a set. And speaking of that set, let's go ahead and throw it right into the middle with game number 4.
As we enter Game 4 of the Fresh 4 Championship, Not FT Win only has one more game to claim the victory. Starburst is going to have to make some big changes, so they opt to change their weapon composition to something a little longer ranged.
What Starburst gained in a bit of range, they gave up in mobility. About halfway through the game, Not FT Win took advantage of a slight overextension and used that speed to swarm the members of Starburst as they went on to score big. From there, it was a hop, skip, and a jump to get a huge lead that they would hold until the game's waning seconds.
And with 30 seconds left on the clock, Starburst is going to have to make some big moves to get some points on the board. Brandroid taking that left route over there and getting a pick off of Not FT Win is going to be huge. It's going to give them a little bit of area to move forward, and it's going to make Not FT Win retreat.
They took advantage of that almost immediately. You can see Bran and Jared at the top of the screen attacking Not FT Win's flank. In the meantime, Ice and Brandroid wait patiently for that attack to land, and once Bran rotates back, Ice moves in with a huge score that starts the bonanza. The rest of the members swarm as quickly as they can, and an emphatic victory going the direction of Starburst.
And with the end of Game 4, Starburst is finally on the board, and the momentum starts to shift in their favor. That will bring us to an exciting Game 7. Let's take a look here.
We had finally arrived at Game 7, the championship point. The two rivals had treated us to another incredible set in their storied history. But it was finally time to determine a winner and for heroes to be made.
Our first big play was made by Ice. Ice from Starburst surviving an unlikely 2v1 right here, and this gives Starburst the ability to push up a little bit. And Ice, taking that aggressive positioning, is able to charge their special, the Stingray. By using the Stingray, they are able to kind of produce a little bit of covering fire and take out hopefully a member or two of Not FT Win, helping that Rainmaker make its first push.
Not to be outdone by his teammate, Bran went on an absolute tear this game, hitting an incredible double direct with this Inkjet and getting a second pick on Kyo from Not FT Win. This push looked like it might take the points the distance as the team moved closer and closer to getting that knockout.
What Starburst wasn't anticipating was Biscuit waiting for them as they were making that push. Biscuit able to hold that defensive positioning and take a couple of members of Starburst down allows for an opening for Not FT Win to make a push.
In their final desperate push, FT Win placed all their cards in the correct position. Kyo and Bagel moved up, taking out 3 members, with the last one being Brandroid. In an incredible, unlikely fight, Brandroid was able to take out all 3 members of Not FT Win, securing the victory for his team.
But that was a lot of action in one go, so let's take another look at the action in slow-mo. As we can see here, 2D is holding a defensive positioning, trying to defend against Bran, getting a lot of support from their teammates, and in this one last final opportunity to make the push, unfortunately Brandroid is able to stop all 3 members of Not FT Win in one go, giving the victory to Starburst.
At the end of this historic set, Starburst completed an incredible reverse sweep to earn their very first North American Championship.
And 9, I for one cannot wait to see Not FT Win and Starburst duke it out on the battlefield once again.
We've hoped you'd enjoyed this recap of the Splatoon 2 Fresh 4 Championship 2021. Until next time, stay fresh!